Thank you so much, Ruth. Appreciate it. And thank you all for being here and then just, exhibiting some interest in what your kiddos are going to be sort of embarking on here in just God, just like a little over a month now. It seems crazy that November is barely a month away, but the fall is just flying by. So I'm John McDevitt. I'm the director of the Leadership School at Kieve Wavis Education. So I'm new to this role. I'm not new to Kieve Wavis or to education. I've been working in education for my entire career. I've worked at all sorts of different schools, all in all different parts of the country. But I sort of cut my teeth in education as a counselor at Camp Kieve about 25 years ago. So it's sort of like what helped me catch the bug for working in education. I was a school counselor for a bunch of years. I was a dean of students. I was a social emotional learning coordinator at a bunch of different places. And then about a year ago, I came back to Kieve Wavis to work with their development and advancement team. And then just through some shifts in the leadership at the leadership school, I got the nod to sort of spearhead and lead the leadership school itself. So that's sort of how I landed here, talking in front of you all tonight. But we have an amazing program, and we're staffed by incredible educators who are all young people who are pursuing credentials in teaching. That's sort of like the shtick of the leadership school right now, is that all of our teaching fellows who will be working directly with your students are all young people who are really motivated and interested in working in education, and sort of like learning the ropes through our program, which is really, really great. And they are really just dynamic young people who really care about kids and really care about developing good, positive relationships really quickly. What I like to say is that it's sort of like a crash course in classroom management, in that you have to develop these relationships that are working relationships really, really quickly with students who just sort of like are plopped in front of you. And we work with students from all over Maine and all over the Northeast. So we see all sorts of different students on our campus week in, week out. And so it's a really great experience for our fellows to be working with your students who are also, poised to have a really great experience here at the Leadership School. It's at Kieve campus, which is in Noblesboro, Maine. So probably about 2-3 hours from Mount Desert. But also just like a really spectacular campus. I'm going to share a slideshow here in a second, so you get to see some photos of what your students will experience while they're here. What else do I want to say? Yeah, I would imagine. I guess I didn't really do my homework. How long has MDI High School been coming to the Leadership School? Has it been a few years, or is
This
this
is
like a
only
new
our
experience?
this is
Okay,
only our second year, but a lot of
great.
our staff who have worked at other schools, myself included, went to Kiev with other groups of students.
Great. So I asked that only because to get a sense of like how many of you have had older students experience the leadership school. But if it's just the second year, probably not a whole lot. So it's probably like this brand new thing that you're not really sure about. But your students are in great hands. The teachers from MDI will be with your students throughout the entire experience and sort of interacting and working with our educators as well. But we sort of our educators kind of run the show while they're on campus. So I'm going to kind of go through and share some slides about what they'll be experiencing here while they are on campus. Present full screen. Does that look okay to everybody? I'm like way more practiced at Zoom than Google Meets, so
It looks good to me. It's a little small
okay,
because I have big, yeah, people screens,
got
but I think it
it. Okay.
good.
Yeah, so the Leadership School at Kieve Wavis Education, right? So our organizational mission is to empower people to contribute positively to society by promoting the values of kindness, respect for others, and environmental stewardship through year-round experiential programs, camps for youth and adults, and guidance from inspirational role models. It's a lot of words to say. Like, we just love working with young people and developing them to live healthy, whole, full lives, right? So from September to June, we run the Leadership School, and then we have 2 camps on Damerscott Lake, Camp Kieve for boys and Wavis Camp for girls, that are really dynamic, amazing places. My daughter is a Wavis camper, and I take a lot of pride in that. And she like lives and breathes Wabash, and she's all about it. So it's just sort of like a window on what else we do. We also do a lot of programs for vets. We're really instrumental in the Lincoln County Food Initiative. So we do a lot to give back to our community here on Kieve campus. We run programs for cancer survivors. We have all sorts of different retreats. And we're really a 12-month organization. And the Leadership School is one of our flagship programs, along with Camp Kieve and Wabash Camp for Girls, right? But your students are here, coming here to experience the Leadership School. So this is a day in the life, full day in the life, right? So they'll arrive to campus around 10 a.m. And be welcomed by our staff on their very first day and go through an entire day of programming. But when they wake up here on campus, basically what it looks like is that they wake up for breakfast, they wake up, eat breakfast, they do some social emotional learning activities, have in the morning, they do more social emotional learning activities after lunch, and we call those class periods. It really is, I mean, it's school. It takes place on the campus of a summer camp, but the way I really like to talk about it and think about it is they're at school. They're just doing a different kind of school while they're here. We focus on experiential education. SEL, I kind of trip over my own words here a lot these days because it's sort of like such a politically charged term these days. And the way I really like to think about it and the way I talk about it more with families and with other educators is it's really interpersonal and intrapersonal skills, right? It's really sort of like understanding who you are as a person and how you interact with other people within and without your community, right? And then they go into snack, and then they do some sign-up activities, all sorts of different things to do. We're really fortunate that we have really cool ropes course elements. We have a big, huge indoor climbing wall. We have basketball courts. We have all sorts of different sort of like fun things to do for these sign-up activities that happen before dinner. And then we do an evening activity each day. I'll talk a little more about that in a bit. And then we also have a little bit more sign-up activities after the evening activity. And then everybody's in their cabin by 8. And then ideally, we're lights out by 9. Ninth graders sort of run at a different schedule than 6th, 7th, 8th graders. So we do try and stick to that 9 o'clock lights out. We are a technology-free campus for our students. So that helps. And, these days are really, really full. So ideally, they get pretty tired out by the time 9 o'clock hits, and everybody is ready to sort of like rest up and have a good night's sleep. This is just a little look at what our cabins look like. So I think a lot of times when people hear the idea that, they're going to a campus that has a summer camp, they think of sort of like ramshackle, post and beam cabins that have just been thrown up. But we really are a 12-month organization. All of our cabins are winterized. We have great facilities. Every cabin has at least 2 sets of bathrooms to share, and we keep them really clean. We have a cleaning service that comes in after every program is turned over, and the fellows who are staying in the cabins with your students make sure that they're keeping it as clean as possible so that what they have to clean up at the end of the week is not super bad. Breakfast, we have an amazing dining hall staff that keeps all of our students and teachers and staff and faculty really, really well fed. Runs the gamut from, oatmeal and yogurt and cereal and pancakes and bacon and eggs in the morning to like a very traditional lunch and dinner, but we'll get there in the schedule as well. But they really do an amazing job of keeping everybody fed, and they're used to feeding very large groups of students. I'll get to dinner in a little bit. So classroom activities, right? This is sort of like the meat of what we do, obviously. The experience itself is really meaningful in that your students will get to be with their cohort throughout the entire time together. And they work really, really closely with their class as they're on campus, right? So MDI High School will sort of like set up the cabin groups and the class groups, and we just sort of like accept that when they get down to campus. Most schools are really, really good at setting up these groups to make them the most productive and most meaningful for all students. They work with one fellow typically. Sometimes we have a co-teacher depending on how many students we have on class, but we usually try and keep the ratio about 1 to 15 students. Again, we focus entirely on experiential education, and the experiential model and the experiential progression. So what we like to say is that we're sort of pioneers in what we call it EASL, is the experiential approach to social emotional learning. And basically what that looks like is we run an activity that's active and engaged, typically outdoors, if the weather permits. And then we sort of like process what that activity was and help the students sort of identify and think about what goals there were, what they learned, what they gained from the process of that the classroom lesson or activity. And we adopted these core competencies from CASEL, which is for the collaborative or academic, social, and emotional learning, sort of the gold standard of SEL competencies or SEL curriculums. And they really focus on these 5 core competencies: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making. We come at them from a lot of different ways, in really sort of like creative and dynamic approaches to working through these things. Again, like what I think is the most important is when your student walks away from the TLS campus, that they have a better idea of who they are and what their goals are and how they can like best interact with other people. And our faculty does a really good job of sort of like helping students understand and recognize that. We are really focused on developmentally appropriate approaches to all of these. So obviously, like the lessons that we will plan for a group of ninth graders looks different than a group of the lessons that we'll plan for a group of sixth graders. You've seen your kids grow up from sixth or ninth grade. You understand that they're very different people right now than they were even just 6 months ago, let alone 2 or 3 years ago. So I just want to kind of like mention that out loud, that it's not a one size fits all sort of like paint by numbers curriculum in any way, shape, or form. Sometimes the activities are the same, and then how we sort of like work through that activity and process that activity looks very different depending on the age and the development of the students that we're working with, right? So that's sort of what I was talking about there, right? That debrief, right? It's for students to kind of like reflect on the activity they just did and what they gained from that experience, and what the goals of that were, right? Move into lunch. I already talked a lot about the quality of our food. Every student walks away really well fed. There's plenty of food for them at every single meal. And students will get the chance to work on our challenge course during class activities, right? So it is fun, and fun is not necessarily the goal for our challenge course, right? The challenge course is really to develop a sense of pride and overcoming challenges, and sort of learning more about what it's like to face an obstacle and come up with a plan and to accomplish that goal while you're in a new environment working with something that might feel really unfamiliar to you. This, I think, our challenge courses, we've had a challenge course on our campus at least since TLS was founded, almost 45 years ago in 1981. So this is really sort of like the hallmark of what we do, is working with students on these challenge course elements. It's part of the class day, and they also get an opportunity to sign up to go onto the challenge course while they're in those sign up activities after class period ends in the afternoon, and then after the evening activity at night. Typically, we don't do the outdoor challenge course at night after the sun goes down pretty early in early November. So we safety is like always our top priority. We want to make sure that everyone is making safe, responsible choices at all times. And these challenge courses, the outdoor challenge course is not open in the evenings for those options. But But you can see here our indoor climbing wall, which typically is open for those evening sign-up activities, is really cool. And we train all of our faculty members on and ensure that they get the certifications that they need to safely belay and monitor and work with all of these elements. We also have a challenge course director as a full-time employee, and one of our full-time educators is sort of like devoted solely to this challenge course and ensuring that everything is done appropriately and safely at all times. So appropriate harness, that the ropes are set up correctly, that everyone's got a helmet on, it has appropriate footwear, and just making sure that everything goes as smoothly as possible. Right? And there's just a couple other examples of some of like the group elements that are sort of what am I trying to say there? Maybe less risky than the climbing up to the top of a climbing wall. Right. Another one of our sort of focuses and goals is environmental stewardship. So it's in our mission statement to focus on environmental stewardship and helping students understand and gain an appreciation for the natural world and sort of understand what it means to be a responsible member of our society and our communities and what that means for the choices that they make regarding the environment. So it's central. We have nature blocks. We call them nature blocks, but it's basically a class devoted to environmental stewardship during each school day as well, right? And some examples, like these students, I'm taking some soil samples here to kind of like test for different components of the soil itself. There's a little photo of our, that's actually the chapel on our campus that we use during summer camp, but is really just more of an outdoor classroom during our TLS season. And we're doing a really cool experiment right now, or data collection right now, based on the life cycle of a leaf. So not each fellow, but there's about 6 fellows who have agreed to sort of like track the progression of a leaf from bud all the way to falling down onto the ground as the season progresses. So again, developmentally appropriate. We're not going to be doing the same sort of environmental stewardship classes for a 6th grader as we will for the 9th graders from MDI. Some different examples of things that we do during sign-up activities, like the ropes course or the climbing tower, or kind of just your typical recess. Again, that's probably not going to be as interesting for a 9th grader, but like we have basketball courts, right? And that's something that you would do at recess. So all sorts of different things. And there's arts and crafts kind of activities like tie-dye, or playing board games, or playing just sort of a guided game like Creep Up. All sorts of different things. They're usually split into 2 different blocks, right? So students get the opportunity to make 2 different choices for those sign-up activities, right? Dinner, all sorts of different kind of good food that we have for dinner. And then the evening activity, and this is sort of, when I talk about TLS, I'm really careful to make sure it's not, to highlight the idea that it's not camp, right? It really is school. We really do meaningful work there. And I love camp. I think there's meaningful work that happens at camp too. And school is different. But evening activity is sort of the closest thing that we have to camp while your students are on the TLS campus. So there's a photo right here of an air guitar skit where it's sort of like karaoke, but it's sort of just joking around and goofing around with your friends. We do an egg drop, which is sort of like an engineering activity where students, I guess where this photo was taken from of this group in a circle in front of the climbing wall here, that's sort of at the bottom of about a 30-foot drop where students engineer different things to kind of help an egg survive the drop down to the floor of this climbing wall. And then they also will do kind of lower stake things called circuits, where they just kind of go around and play different games with different faculty members who are on staff that night. At 8 o'clock, everybody heads back to their cabin. It's a really good time to just connect with the people that you're staying with for the week. With the fellow who, again, is like just a really cool younger role model for your students. And it's just time to kind of like wind down the day, reflect. Again, there's no technology on campus, so students can't hide behind their phones or be texting their friends or you all to kind of check in through the day. But it's really just a time to kind of like connect and start to get ready to pass out and go to sleep. All right. So probably not any groundbreaking information there. Hopefully you've read sort of the packets about like what a day in the life at TLS will look like. But what sort of questions have I created throughout that presentation?
I just wanted to say when you were saying that recess might not be popular for high schoolers last year, like Gaga Ball was incredibly popular. They went
Right.
crazy with that. Yeah.
Which is amazing. And
They
we have a
like to
Gaga
play
ball.
too.
We have a Gaga ball pit on campus as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, ninth graders, they're still kids. They still like to
They
have
really
fun. They
are.
still like
Yeah.
to run around outside and enjoy each other's company. So
Yeah, and they have many fewer
just
opportunities, I think, than the younger kids. So
exactly.
it's
And I
really
think
cool as
that's
a staff. Last year, especially, it's first year with our ninth graders doing it. And I had been with eighth graders before. But it was just really fun to see them in a different light and for them to
yeah,
see us playing and, challenging ourselves as staff to do some of the like the ropes courses and things. It kind of breaks a barrier between us that I think is it's helpful sometimes in class, but it's really awesome to get to connect on a more personal level with the students too.
definitely. I think that's feedback that we get a lot from visiting faculty of schools is that like they feel so much more connected to their students after having gone through this experience with their students. We have a whole system where we have like green light, yellow light, and red light activities for faculty in the sense that how much their participation is encouraged during a different lesson or I just saw that question. It's like, I wish I could go to. I love that. Yeah,
Okay, so
we're
I see
trying to get
that
as many students as possible.
Sasha has a question.
Great.
Hey, John
Yes.
and Ruth, thank you so much for organizing this. My children have done Outward Bound courses, and this is like reminiscent of Outward Bound a little bit. So these are like amazing opportunities. I totally appreciate it. I just have a question about cabin assignments. How does that work?
So
Yep. Great question. Was that you jumping in, Ruth?
yeah, I can answer. I can field that. So,
Perfect.
cabin and classroom groups are created by us staff at MDI. So, Mark Carrigan and I will usually work together to create those with input from a few other staff as well. Typically, we have class groups by advisory, and we have to combine a couple advisories. And then the cabin groups are they're not co-ed, so it'll be like all the girls from 3 or 4 advisories, and then all the boys from, or yeah, like maybe 3 advisories. So that is the general pattern, but sometimes there's like exceptions, and we have to move people around. But if anyone has any concerns or desires, you can email me and I can include that in our deliberation. We haven't created them yet. We're waiting to see what the signups are like.
Yeah, and that's typically feedback or advice that we give to visiting schools too, is that if you already have established like homerooms or advisories, to try and keep them together as much as possible for the class time, just because it's such a great way to build that community and camaraderie amongst the group that they'll be with for that entire year or 4 years, depending on the school's
Great, thanks so much.
model.
Sure thing. I'm glad to see that you guys can unmute yourselves because I couldn't figure out how to do it. Does anyone else have questions? I think it's fine if this is brief too. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I can share. We planned this so that students don't have to come to school early on the Monday of the trip. So they'll take their regular bus to school. If there are students if Ellsworth area, Trenton area, Hancock, Lemoyne, we can pick them up on our way through as long as it's planned well in advance. So we're going to have one bus that can pick those kids up so they don't have to drive all the way in to Bar Harbor and then out again. So please just communicate with me if you're one of those folks. And then on our way back, we're going to get back by 2:15 so that kids can go to their regular after school activities and take their regular school buses home. So it shouldn't be any extra transport for you all. Of course, best laid plans, there's going to be some sort of big traffic jam or something that'll mess it up. But that's our hope and intention. Last year we had students come early. We could only stay one night. And so we had it, a lot of extra transportation and conflicts. So this year, that's partly why we want to stay the 2 nights to get a full experience, because it is far away. It's 2.5 hours, if you believe Google Maps. So on a bus, it's a long ways. As far as technology goes, just one thing that I would love is for folks to not bring phones or smartwatches on the bus trips either. If they're out, we will just it's not a big deal. We'll just take them because we want students. Last year, I remember being like, wow, they're talking on the bus. Like, it's so loud and active. It's like, that is an important time as well. And we don't want, students, we kind of want them to get into the mindset of not having phones. And that is really hard to ask that they bring just themselves to entertain them on a 3-hour bus ride. I see a couple questions in the chat. Concrete example of the class activities. Okay, can I share a few that I have seen?
I would love that, Ruth. That'd be great.
Okay, so some of the class activities are just discussion activities, or the kids will be asked kind of a thought-provoking question, and they'll work with a partner to make like a poster about what is kindness? How do you pursue that in your community? Like, it's more like that kind of class, but most of the classes have some sort of challenge component. So like guiding a partner blindfolded through an obstacle course using only your words. And what does that feel like? There's always a debrief at the end of these activities. Most of the challenges are not adrenaline pumping like the ropes course, but some of them have a tiny aspect of that. Like you saw the students on that giant balance beam. The challenge there is to balance each other so that it's flat and like get on and off of it. So there's a lot of communication in the group. There's one called like the peanut butter pit. I don't know, or like
poison peanut butter pit. Yeah.
Poison peanut butter pit. And they've got like this small platform and a rope swing, and everybody has to swing to the platform. And so they have to like catch each other or like space for each other. There's a lot of communication again with these activities. And there's like just enough risk that it's a mental challenge, I think, and an interpersonal challenge. But the like joy when they accomplish a task is like palpable. And I think because there's that little bit of risk, it feels important, and therefore they care and they think about what they're going to do, and they're able to do really deep debriefs when they're done with those class activities. So they're varied and they're fun. And I just can't say enough about how like the Kieve staff are incredible facilitators. Like we're kind of like these little butterflies that we like listen in on their debriefs when we can, but we're kind of not supposed to. And they are just so skilled at getting buy-in from students and getting everybody talking. And I like just can't say enough good things about them. And we did a survey after last year, and there was just the students were like, the staff were amazing. The staff were amazing. Like they loved them.
I think we're going to hire you for a testimonial.
Well,
that's great. I mean, that was better than anything I could have said. So
yeah,
awesome.
I'm really excited about the program. Okay, I see a second question about students being discouraged to bring food. They can bring food for the buses. What's the Kieve?
No outside food on campus. So yes, that's a school by school policy about whether they allow students to bring food on the bus. Obviously 2.5 hours is a pretty long time for growing 9th graders to go without a snack. So it's typically students will bring food onto buses if their schools allow it, if their sending schools allow it. We then collect all that food and sort of like warehouse it while they're on campus, and then give it back to the faculty or the visiting faculty, where we'll warehouse it for the time that they're on campus. So,
and
there's a lot of different reasons for that. equity reasons, health and safety reasons. We don't want students being exposed to allergens that they're not supposed to be exposed to. We don't want, kids trying to hide candy in their cabin to then expose, get varmints in there and things like that. So it's sort of our policy. If your students do have any allergies, please make sure you do disclose that on their health forms. We have a really, really amazing health and nursing staff here on campus, and we want to work with you all. Our dining services can provide just about any type of meal sort of like restrictions or requirements. So just make sure you're like transparent with us on that, because we really want to work with you and we want to get as many students here as possible.
Yeah, and they'll have all like the standards, like they'll have a vegetarian option, they'll have a gluten-free option, they'll have peanut-free, shellfish-free.
Yeah, I don't even think we have any peanut butter on campus at this point,
I
honestly.
probably no
So
shellfish.
there's some snacks that have peanuts in them and stuff like that, but we don't
Yeah,
have peanut
and
butter or anything like that. So
that actually is a great segue to please be sure there are the 2 blue paper permission forms to turn in, but there's a third thing that needs to happen, which is a Google survey that is linked in the emails that you've gotten. It's linked on the school website. If you can't find it, just email me. I'll send you the link directly. And that's where Kieve gets information about the allergens or any medical needs. We are bringing our school nurse, Tammy Underwood, and so she should know usually about students' needs, but I'm also recording everything that we get on the forms. I'm recording in a big spreadsheet so that folks have access to that as well. So all the adults should be very informed of any medical needs for students.
Yeah, and we have a full-time nurse on staff, as well as a healthcare director who is a nurse practitioner. So we also have, we're fully staffed for healthcare needs on campus.
We'll also bring food on the buses, so students, they don't need to bring food. We'll bring snacks and oranges and granola bars and stuff. All right, well,